Hey everybody, this is Bill with Live Simple, Live Free. And on this renovation house, we are to the point where we don't have any real big, huge projects left, like the roof or something like that. We got all kinds of little nitpicky things. You see right now, Barry's putting the great stuff insulation, foam insulation around the windows. And we just got all kinds of little things like that to do. So here we go, got to get them done. We're starting to get close. It's getting kind of exciting. So I'm finally finished with all the spackling and the sanding. I'm so glad. It seems like I've been doing it forever. In fact, I've been working on it, I think, for about a month. However, I only average about 4 hours a day of work, so it's really only been 2 weeks of actual hours that I've put into this. I'm pretty good at spackle, but I'm not real fast, and I know that. But it's done now. It's ready for Molly to start painting. She picks all the colors, and she does all the painting and trim work and all those kinds of things. So it's ready for her to start painting now, finally. So in this den, this is one of the first rooms that I finished spackling. And so she's already got this painted. It's kind of a light gray with a slight green tint in it. It looks kind of nice. In fact, I have had a number of people. This is the same, let me turn this around. This is the same color as is in the kitchen. And I actually had a number of people ask me why we went with all white, that is kind of stark and too much like a hospital. Well, it's not white, it's gray. Maybe it didn't show up real well on the camera, but here you can see the white cabinet and the gray wall. You know, there have been discussions in the past with people asking me if I take pride in my work, and if I stand back and when I'm done and I look at a project and say, you know, I built that. Well, yes, I absolutely still take pride in my work. I always will. But standing back and admiring my work and I built that and the satisfaction of that, not so much anymore, just because I've done it for so many decades. I used to, 20 years ago, drive past a house and look at that and take great pride in it. It just doesn't affect me now like it used to, though I still take pride in my work and want to do great work. But there's one exception to that, and that is sheetrock. I've seen so many houses with very poor sheetrock spackling, and when you turn the lights on at night, you can see all the seams, you can see all the nail holes. I take great pride in making a wall smooth. This right here is a wall that's got a seam that runs right across here, all the way across. It's been spackled and sanded and painted, and now when I put a light on it, the seam is right here, and it has absolutely disappeared. I absolutely love that. I take great pride in that. You know, before we were married, well, when we got married, Elizabeth saw that all that I was doing with the construction work. She said that she never really gave a thought to it before, how the walls are smooth and how the corners are, you know, tight. And she never stopped to think that somebody actually did that. Or when you look at a corner like this, you know, it's this hard corner here. How did that actually get that way? She never gave it a thought. She always just took it for granted, I guess. But now that she's been seeing me do this for many years and she knows the amount of work that goes into it, now she says she drives around and sees things all the time, you know, buildings, bridges, playgrounds, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, somebody had to do that work. So now I've got a bunch of receptacles that I have to change out. Not because there's anything wrong with them, they certainly still work, but because they're the wrong color. This is one of the walls that was covered with paneling, and so these are brown. We need to switch them out with the new white ones. So everything here in the den and in that fourth bedroom that was paneled, I'm going to have to switch these out. And I have to use a hand screwdriver here instead of a power drill to unscrew these, because these old ones have flat screws here instead of Phillips, and the flat one just doesn't work in the drill. It won't stay in the screw, so I got to do everything here by hand. Now receptacles have always been put in this way with the ground hole on the bottom. But now code has changed and I hate it. But they now are required to go in this way, which to me is completely upside down. And when I questioned the inspector about it, he said that when it was this way, apparently if you have a larger device like a transformer to charge something and you plug it in and it's heavy, sometimes apparently there's been a problem with it start to fall out a little bit. You plug it in like this, and if it starts to fall out a little bit, then all of a sudden you've got a situation there where you've got the two hot, positive and negative wires or prongs partially exposed. And if something should fall across that, it can short out and or create a fire hazard. Apparently that has happened before, or fires were started that way. So now we have to put them in like this, where if it starts to pull out, the only thing you're going to hit is the ground in there, and that's not going to create any kind of a problem. The problem that I have with it is that most devices that you plug into the wall are designed to plug in this way and then hang down below. And when you've got it here, you plug it in, it's going to be sticking up. It's going to want to fall out even worse than it would this way. So I don't like it at all, but that's the new electrical code. Receptacles must be placed this way. Now we're only replacing the receptacles in these two rooms because we got rid of the paneling. All the rest of them are the correct color. Actually, this is white, but all the rest of them are the bone kind of off-white color. That's fine, so we won't be touching those. They're all in this way, but they're all grandfathered in. We don't have to touch them. Just the new ones that we put in, we have to turn this way. Also, these old metal boxes, which they used to use in the 70s, now have to be grounded. So there is a hole in the back for a grounding wire. So I made this up. Actually, Barry made this up for me. It's got a grounding screw, a little green screw right there. So I have to take this, screw it into that hole in the back of the box to ground the box. That now gives me a wire, a grounding wire right there that I can attach to the original grounding wire, which goes to the bottom of the receptacle, and that way the box is properly grounded. The new plastic ones that we've been using for a couple decades now, you don't have to ground the box because it's not metal. So now I have this installed properly according to code, even though it seems like it's upside down to me. I don't have it screwed all the way in because the inspector is going to want to be able to see inside of there to make sure that the metal box is properly grounded and that sort of thing. So after he does the final inspection, then I can screw it in the rest of the way and put the cover on it. So putting in all of these electrical devices, the receptacles and the switches, is considerably easier and more enjoyable work than doing the spackling and the sanding. I won't be filthy at the end of the day when I get home. So I'm not screwing them all the way in tight and putting the cover on it because the inspector might still want to see inside of there. You may remember that when we were redoing the rotten siding here, we had to take down the old siding, and it was actually underneath of the soffit there. So we had to take down the soffit before we could get to the replace the T111 siding. So now that and this was high up in the air, so now that the deck is finished, it's easy to get to this without doing ladders and scaffolds and all that. So I'm in the process now of rebuilding the soffit. So we're finally to the point where we can start putting all the doors back in place, and I'm excited about that as it progresses. We took the old doors out very carefully and now we're reusing them. Let me show you how this works. This is called a split jamb door. Quite frankly, I didn't even know they made these in 1970 when this was built. I'm wondering if maybe they were added later, I don't know. But anyway, let me show you how this works. This comes from the factory all put together like this. And you just slide that in the opening, and then this is the back side. There's a groove right here. Let me get a little closer so you can see it. So there's a groove right here. This is the door jamb. There's a little groove, and then the other side is also completely put together at the factory. Once you get this one installed, you just slide that into the groove, just like that, and then nail that into the wall, and you're all good to go. Which is a really cool system. It makes installing doors very fast, very easy. However, I've got a bit of a problem here that I just discovered. This is the original door that was in this opening, so it should be able to go right back inside, right into the same opening. But when I put this in here, I discover that there's a gap here in the sheetrock, and that looks really bad. And I couldn't figure out what's going on, and then I realized this used to have paneling on it, and the paneling must have run all the way in here, so it covered it and it looked fine. But now without the paneling, I've got this gap. So what I'm going to have to do, I thought I was completely finished with the sheetrock, with the spackling. But I'm going to have to mud this. I'm going to have to run some paper tape down here and cover this in with spackle to make it look good up against the door. I just can't seem to get away from the spackle. Now I've got a pretty big gap here to fill in, and if I just use regular pre-mix mud, that would take forever to dry. So I mixed up this powder, which is 90-minute mud. It dries chemically in 90 minutes. That way that big gap there will fill in and dry, and I'll actually be able to put a second coat on it this afternoon instead of waiting several days. So this door to the closet, as I put it in, this is the vinyl flooring we're going to be using. So I put a piece underneath because I want it the height so that when we actually do the flooring, we can just slide the vinyl underneath of it. So I put a piece on each side. Now this is very easy to find out if it's square just by the size of the opening here. It's tight there and it's loose there. So it's much bigger, the gap is much bigger. So I'm going to move the bottom to the left a little and the top to the right a little, and I adjust it until the gap is the same all the way around. Make sure it closes. So I've got the inside jamb slid into that slot behind the door jamb, and it's all solid. Well done, fast and easy.
Looks like a door.
Yep. Second coat of mud on this patch. So Barry tends to work later into the afternoon and evening than I do, and Molly's doing the painting. Sometimes she's over here all day, but she also tends to come over more in the evening. So when I left yesterday, Barry was here working on some plumbing. I get in here this morning and I find that apparently Molly was here last night because she got all of this painted in the master bedroom, all around the new doors. She also got the master bathroom, in fact both bathrooms painted, and that's looking good. And then I see that Barry has started on the new tile, got some of it in. Now the old tile like this, we're just putting it over top, but the old tile, you see here the glue, these pieces all have to be glued down, and you just kind of hope they don't move. Once I've seen tile like this where it separates here as they kind of slide around a little bit. This new style tile has a system here where they actually lock together, and see it's not glued down. The whole thing just floats, but it's all completely locked together and makes a completely waterproof seal. It's really a much superior system. So now you can see what the new tile is going to look like with the new paint. It's looking really good. And I just heard Barry drive up on his motorcycle, so I'll go talk to him and see what's happening. All right, now I'm ready to install this door. So I'm wiring up the smoke detectors here. The black wire and the white wire provide the power. And then these are all connected together through the red wire so that if one goes off, they will all go off. So the red wire is the control wire that hooks them all together. So these are hardwired, power all the time. They also have a battery in them for battery backup in case the power goes out. I like to do the final little bit here by hand so I don't get them too tight. With that drill, it's possible to get them so tight that you crack the plastic. Plug this in. And then there's this little shower cap. This is a dust cover. Keeps the dust out of the detector while the construction process is still going on. So now I've actually been gone on my trip to Alabama for the past 3 days. And so I get back and I see what Barry's doing, and he finished everything that I was working on. These are the doors. This is for the master bathroom and the master closet. He's got those doors installed. The master bath tile is finished. Toilet is installed and working. This is the main bath. He's now got the tile finished in here, and the toilet is ready to install, and the painting is done. Except we still need to do the trim around the floor and the heat registers and stuff like that. So the new HVAC system is completely installed and working. This is the outside unit. Of course, most of it is inside, and I'm not going to crawl under there to show you, but it's a brand new unit to do the whole house. By the way, HVAC is a central heating and air conditioning unit. HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So as I mentioned, the HVAC has now been finished, and this is the thermostat. This was the old thermostat place where the old one was, but we got a problem here because the old one went this way and it went right into the box. This one is designed to go this way, and the box is too big, so we have this hole up above. And normally there's just a hole in the wall where the wire comes out, and then you just screw it to the wall. So that means I'm going to have to somehow patch the top part of this. Now, Barry just came up with something. I think he invented it on this job. Is that right, Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah. He just sort of suggested it, I think, on a whim, and I tried it, and it worked. It's fabulous. I wish I had known this years ago.
Me too.
Barry says, me too. To patch a hole like this, I can't do it the way I normally would because this metal box is here. But normally I would take a piece of wood, stick it in there, bridging behind it, and then screw it in on both sides to the sheetrock. Then you can take a little patch of sheetrock, put it there, and screw it in, and then tape over it. I can't do that because of this box. So here's what Barry suggested. I've done it 4 or 5 times, I think, in this house already, just patching little holes, and it works really well. Just take a piece of sheetrock, a little scrap, and then I trim it where I trim this to fit inside that hole, and I leave the paper on there that's from the sheetrock there, so I got this extra paper all the way around. And then I mix up the powdered mud that dries real fast. And I'll put some in on both sides and just take that and just press it in place and put some mud here. I'll show you all this, but put some mud there, press it in place. And when that dries, as hard as a rock, and I got actual sheetrock in there, it's not going anywhere. Then I can do the second coat to cover over the mud outside. Brilliant, Barry, absolutely brilliant. It's saving me so much time. I wish I had known that a long time ago. And I don't think anybody told him that or taught him that. He just sort of came up with it. Okay, so I've got this powdered mud mixed up. I'm gonna put it in there. I'm gonna press this in. Like that. Forgot to put the mud underneath. I think I made the mud a little bit too soft. It should be a little harder, a little stiffer, but it'll still work. Okay, after that dries in 90 minutes, I can come back and put the second coat on it. Isn't that cool? I love it. And we got a new door installed. It looks good. The old one worked, but it was very tired. Barry did this while I was gone, and he left the original jamb, just put a new door in it. Of course, this will all be painted when the jamb is all painted and all of this. It'll look fine. This is the door to the bedroom where I had to do additional spackling here, and he's now got that installed. Also, in this room, the window needed to be trimmed out, and he's got that done. So it's like, Barry, what else is there to do? And he said, clean up. He said he's been working really hard for the past few days just to get projects done and hasn't done any cleanup. So we're going to go through the entire house now, clean everything up completely. Since the HVAC is working, we want to vacuum everything and make sure we don't create a lot of dust so that the filter in the HVAC doesn't get completely filled with spackle dust. So that's our next project, is just clean up. We're getting right down to the wire. Hopefully, there's only going to be a few more weeks. We just have to finish the trim, like the baseboard. Molly's finishing up the paint, and then we finish the flooring throughout. And then there's just little, oh, and the railing on the deck outside. And then there's just little, punch list things. I believe we've contracted with somebody to actually do all the painting on the outside of the house, so that's going to be huge. To take that off of our shoulder, and we can get this done hopefully as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching, everybody. Live simple, live free, you be blessed.